Shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High. Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. In the name of his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, a so-called black man. Be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. What does that mean? And how does that apply to you? Or does it? Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. So the Most High created man in his own image. In the image of the Most High created he him. Male and female created he them. And the Most High blessed them. And the Most High said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Right. So here you have the Most High blessing male and female to be fruitful and multiply, to replenish the earth and subdue it. So this is an example of being fruitful and multiplying, to replenish, to fill. When you have orders, you must fill them. You must add to it. So being fruitful and multiplying is adding. When you multiply something, you add to it. So he's telling them to add. And in Genesis 46, we have an example of him building, making something that's already added even greater. What is that? The nation of Israel. We're going to go to it in Genesis, the 46th chapter, and see. And the Most High spake unto Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here am I. And he said, I am Yahweh, the power of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. So he's telling him, Jacob, Israel, that he's going to make them a great nation. And leaving out of Egypt, they were a great nation. And how did they become a great nation other than being fruitful and multiplying? And you can read about that in Exodus, the 12th chapter, around the 37th verse, to see when they left, there were over 600,000. Right? So I'm asking you, what do you think? In the land of our captivity, do you think we should still be fruitful and multiply? Let's see in Hosea chapter 1 and the 10th verse. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power, Yahweh. So it's evident that here on this side of the world, this western side of the world, that we have been fruitful and multiplying since our inception, since we were brought over here. That this prophecy has been fulfilled to the extent that they have to have tabs and keep tabs on us to see how many of us actually there are. Yet they tell us that we are the minorities. But they keep these tabs on us with these census, saying how many people do you have in your household? We need to know. But yet we are the minority according to them, and they are the majority. So I'm asking you, do you still think it's in our best interest, to be fruitful and multiply, given the circumstance that we are in our captivity, and under the curses in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter? Do you think it's in our best interest to be fruitful and multiply under these circumstances? Whether it be not being able to maintain ourselves and having to go to our enemies for all wants and needs, hunger, thirst, and nakedness, bringing in another mouth to feed, not providing them with the start they need, giving them adequate and sufficient amount of food to eat and not this fake GMO garbage they feeding us, and whether or not we should be fruitful and multiply and bring in another mouth to feed and to clothe and to worry about whether or not they being taught the right things in these institutions, these public schools, these private schools, and these colleges that they are being indoctrinated in with these philosophies, and not to mention these religions as well, these churches, these mosques, these what have you. Do you think it's wise for us to still be fruitful and multiplying, adding on? As you see here in the scripture, it tells us that we cannot be measured. Right? So I want to go into Paul writing and hear what Paul had to say on this matter of being fruitful and multiplying. Because he spoke on this. And we're going to get that. But yeah, here in Hosea, it tells us that we would not be able to be measured nor numbered, right? In that place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, here in the Americas, over here on this Western hemisphere. We were going to be called everything but the sons of the living power. African Americans, Haitians, Jamaicans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Colombians, Argentinians, Indians. You get the point. That's why I say so-called black, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Because we not. We are the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. So, should we still be fruitful and should we still be fruitful and being multiplying in this captivity, knowing that what we bringing our children into? Or should we use discrepancy and use our better judgment and abstain from having marriage? And by marriage, I mean sex. We're going to see what Paul said on that, and we're going to go into some more scriptures. All right? So, yeah, that was Hosea. And we're going to go into Paul. And this is 1 Corinthians chapter 7, and we're going to start at verse 1. Now, concerning the things whereof ye wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. So wait, if a man does not touch a woman, how can he marry her? How can he be fruitful and multiply? As it said in Genesis 1, the 27th to 28th verse. Just wait, we're going to find out and see. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. So, to avoid fornication, you should have your own wife or your own husband, so you don't go after your neighbor's wife or husband. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife have not power of her own body, but the husband. And likewise also the husband have not power of his own body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time. So if you guys agree upon not having sex for a time, let it be under both of y'all agreement. That ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer. Right. So if you want to abstain from having sex, to fast and to pray, to go without, to become and grow closer to the word, that's good. And come together again. But then after that fasting and prayer is over, come together again. That Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. But I speak this by permission and not of commandment. For I would that all men were even as I myself. And what was Paul himself? We're going to go and find out. But every man have his proper gift of the Most High, one after this manner and another after that. So one of the gifts that Paul was given that we're going to find out is that he can abstain from marriage. He didn't have to go into a woman. He could abstain to further devote his time and to focus on his ministries. Devote his time and to focus better on his ministries. I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I. But if they cannot, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. So if you need to marry in order for you to continue to be in this work so that you don't burn, it's better that you do marry so that you don't lose focus. Because some can't, some don't have that gift as Paul had. Matter of fact, let's go to and see what gift that was in Matthew 19. St. Matthew chapter 19, verse 12. For there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb, and there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. That was Paul. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. Right? So Paul abstained from having sex for the kingdom of heaven's sake, so that he may be more focused on his ministries, on his epistles, on his letters. So this was his gift. Some men, they don't have that gift. That's why he wrote what he wrote in Corinthians. For I would that all men were even as I, myself, a eunuch, able to abstain without having sex. But every man have his proper gift of the Most High. So one after this manner and another after that. So you might have a gift in another department. I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I, a eunuch. But if they cannot contain, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. Right. And he wrote in Timothy that what? This is 1 Timothy chapter 3, and we're going to go down to, we'll just start from number 1. This is a true saying. If a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, a wife, not a whore, a wife, a virtuous woman. Like I told you, we're going to go into Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, the 26th chapter, and see what the difference between those two are. Vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, appointed to teach. So Paul told you that if you need to marry so that you don't burn. And if you marry to one wife so that having too many wives don't take away from your ability to focus all your attention on ministry or being a bishop. So he says, a bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, appointed to teach. So when you take on more than what you can handle, that takes away from what you should be handling if you're going to be in that position, a bishop, teaching. So some men can't handle that. They can't handle just one woman, yet alone trying to balance 3, 4, 5, 6 different women at one time, all at the same time trying to teach and to minister and to serve and do the works for the kingdom of heaven. So Paul, that's why Paul told you, if you can abstain even as I, it's better that you do that. But he's saying it's not a commandment though. He's just telling you if you can't do it. If not, okay, he understands to avoid that burn, go and marry. But you got to understand, these women that you come in contact here in captivity, because we under the curses, it tells you that in Jeremiah 31:22, a woman shall compass a man. Let's go and get that. Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 22. How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For Yahweh hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. So you trying to balance 2 or 3 women, and especially if you not fearing the Most High by keeping His laws, statutes, commandments, and judgments to the best of your abilities through the power of His only begotten Son, Yahushua. If you trying to maintain 2 or 3 women, man, you really putting yourself in a bind, in a predicament, man. Because he put a new thing, he created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. They don't regard you as a man in today's society. They don't look at you as they did back in the days of antiquity. Right? Because we under the curses, man. It tells you that in Deuteronomy. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. And we're going to go down to, 56th verse? Because a lot of you think you got a wife, man, but you being fooled. You being deceived, man. You under a strong delusion, man, because you don't keep these commandments. And you don't try to either, man, because you can do all things through Yahushua, which strengthens you. Philippians 4:13, man. So you can do it, man, through Yahushua, but on your own, no, you can't do it. So this is Deuteronomy 28, the 56th chapter. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicacy and tenderness, her eyes shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. Yahweh has created a new thing on the earth. A woman shall compass a man, man. We are under these curses here in this captivity we in, man. So if you ain't fearing Yahweh and you thinking you got you a wife, you sadly mistaken. Now, can that whore become righteous? Of course, man. But not on her own. Because it tells you we went a whoring after other deities, other gods. So he looked at us, the men of Israel, as whores, man. So to say that because you have a wife and you think she's a wife, but indeed she's a whore, that she can't change her ways, not on her own, but through Yahweh, and she has to go through her husband. So if she's unwilling to listen to you, then you might have to think about that bill of divorce, right? So a woman should compass a man. So here in this captivity, you thinking that, oh, I got me a good woman. I got me a good wife, man. But we gonna find out in Sirach just what the difference between a wife, a virtuous woman, and a whore is. and see whether or not you have a wife or a whore, a virtuous woman or not. To think that you should be fruitful and multiplying, bringing in other mouths to feed, man. Just because you believe that the Bible tells you to be fruitful and multiply. No, man, you got to dig deep. You got to dig deep and see what's going on. Why is it telling you to be fruitful and multiplying? Right? And use discernment and know what time it is and what you up against. And just being fruitful and multiplying just for the sake of it, bringing in mouths to feed and not being able to teach them correctly, that ain't a good look, right? So we got to use discernment, man. So back to Paul, because Paul was telling you, if you can be as I, a eunuch, for the kingdom of heaven's sake, do that, man. Do that. But if you can't, then marry, because it's better to marry than to burn, man. Because if burn is going to keep you from not doing the work and keep your mind on something else, marry. Go get a wife. Don't fornicate. And don't lust after your neighbor's wife. Get your own wife, right? That's what Paul was telling you. Let me go back into that. So that's what Paul was telling you when he said it's good for a man not to touch a woman. If you can. But if you can't, he understands. That's why he said by his permission, not of a commandment. But I speak this by permission and not of commandment. Okay? So that's what Paul was telling you. So we got to go and dive into Sirach, Ecclesiasticus. All right? 26th chapter. We're going to find out, see what a wife is, virtuous woman, as opposed to a whore. All right, this is Ecclesiasticus, chapter 26, verse 1, and it reads, "Blessed is the man that hath a virtuous wife," not just a wife, a virtuous wife, "for the number of his days shall be double. A virtuous woman rejoiceth her husband, and he shall fulfill the years of his life in peace. A good wife is a good portion, which shall be given in the portion of them that fear Yahweh." And how do you fear Yahweh? By keeping his laws, statutes, commandments, and judgments. That's the beginning of a good understanding. Is those that keep his laws, statutes, commandments, and judgments. And how do you do that? Be perfect. Through what? Through his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai. Verse 4, "Whether a man be rich or poor, if he have a good heart towards Yahweh, he shall at all times rejoice with a cheerful countenance. There be three things that my heart feareth, and for the fourth I was sore afraid: the slander of a city, the gathering together of an unruly multitude, and a false accusation. All these are worse than death. But a grief of heart and sorrow is a woman that is jealous over another woman, and a scourge of the tongue which communicateth with all." Right. So here you is thinking you have a wife, and she communicated with all. She talked with everybody. The neighbor next door, the man in the grocery store, at the gym. She just communicate with all. "An evil wife is a yoke shaken to and fro. He that have hold of her is as though he held a scorpion." And we know what the end results of somebody that's holding a scorpion in their hand, they're going to get stung. with venom, right? And that's going to be painful. So be careful. A drunken woman in a gatter abroad causes great anger, and she will not cover her own shame. The whoredom of a woman may be known in her haughty looks and eyelids. So you know whether or not you got a virtuous wife or a whore by the way she look when she leave out. She shows everything to the whole world to garnish attention. Whether it's her breasts, her ass, her makeup, how she does her eyelids, whatever, right? Her haughty looks. If thy daughter be shameless, keep her in straitly, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty. So if your daughter be shameless, keep her straitly, unless she abuse herself with overmuch liberty. Through overmuch liberty. You can't tell me how to dress. You can't tell me this. You can't tell me that. That's why you got to raise up a child the way they should be taught. So if you don't teach her and you let her go out and abuse herself and do everything that she see everybody else doing, she gonna become what? She gonna become a whore. So you gotta watch what she watch on these TV shows, these female rappers, how they portraying themselves, putting themselves all out, showing everything they got, saying that it's their body, they can do whatever they want. You know, through liberty. Over much liberty. Watch over an impudent eye, and marvel not. If she trespass against thee, she will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler. Whew. Boy, cover your children's ears, man. Let me start over again. This is 12. She will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler when he have found a fountain. Can you picture that? Opening her mouth like that? Thirsty? I mean, you know, man. And drink of every water near her. By every hedge will she sit down and open her quiver against every arrow. So this is a promiscuous woman, man. This is a whore. A lot of you, I don't know if I should call you men, a lot of you men thinking you got a wife, but you got a whore, man. What Paul told you, if you can abstain, if you can go without being married, be without, man. Because you in captivity, man. It told you a woman shall surpass a man. It told you in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. We under those curses, man. You thinking that you got a wife, you got a whore, man. She will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler when he have found a fountain. And you know his mouth is open wide, man. He's thirsty. He ready to swallow up all that, man. All that drink. When he have found a fountain and drink of every water near her. You get the picture. And drink of every water near her. By every hedge will she sit down and open her quiver against every arrow. She's taking everything, man. That's what a whore is, man. The grace of a wife delighteth her husband, and her discretion will fat his bones, and her discretion will fat his bones. So the grace of a wife delighteth her husband. Her being discreet is going to fat his bones. It's going to make him proud. It's going to get him his, it's going to fatten his bones. As opposed to the other woman that wants to go out, a whore, and show off and show her haughty looks. This woman is about discretion. This is how you could tell the difference between a virtuous wife and a whore. One wants to be seen and the other doesn't. One wants to be seen for her husband, and the other one wants to be seen by other husbands or other men. Be careful, man. Watch your wife's countenance. When she goes out, does she talk to everybody? Is she willing to dress, what does it say, haughty, and show off everything? These are the things you got to be looking out for if you're going to be married. Not just to be fruitful and multiply, man, but to be fruitful and multiply. If you be married, make sure you marry a virtuous wife. A silent and loving woman is a gift of Yahweh. Let me read that again. A silent and loving woman is a gift of Yahweh. And there is nothing so much worth as a mind well instructed. So she follows your instructions and you don't abuse your power. Right? Just like you follow Yahweh Shai, she follows you. It's order. The Most High Yahweh, His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, man, woman, and if y'all have children, okay? A shamefast and faithful woman is a double grace, and her continent mind cannot be valued. So it's double grace if you get a shamefast and faithful woman. As the sun when it arises in the high heaven, so is the beauty of a good wife in the ordering of her house. So if she keeps the house in order, that's beauty, man. That's beautiful. She ain't worried about going out with her homegirls and kicking it with them and going out for drinks and all that stuff. No, man. She's fine with being at home and having the house in order and taking instructions from you and build it. That was the whole thing of being fruitful and multiplying, to build, man. As the sun when it arises in the high heaven, so is the beauty of a good wife in the ordering of her house. As the clear light is upon the holy candlestick, so is the beauty of the face in ripe age. So even in her ripe age, she's still beautiful, man. She's still beauty. She still has that beauty, that aura, that glare about her, man. That's true. This is what marriage is. This is when you marry somebody, a virtuous woman. As the golden pillars are upon the sockets of silver, so are the fair feet with a constant heart. Right, so you see what Paul tells you to marry. You got to marry a wife, a virtuous wife, and not a whore. If you can't abstain and be a eunuch to avoid that burn, go out and have you a wife married. But make sure you get a virtuous woman and not a whore. So this is St. Matthew 19. And this is, because you might feel like, man, I gave up a lot. But let's see. And everyone that has forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. Right. So, although you don't get it this turn in the kingdom to come, you will be fruitful and multiplying. You will have as many as you want. It tells you, and everyone that's forsaken, and everyone that have forsaken for his sake. Now, houses or brethren or sisters or father or mother or wife. So if you are a eunuch for his sake, I mean, you don't go without having a wife or children, you're going to get it back in the kingdom, man. You're going to be fruitful and multiply. This is Hebrews 6 and verse 10. For the Most High is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love. So he ain't going to forget your labor of love, man. You giving up something and going without, if that be your gift for the love of his work, he ain't going to forget that. Which ye have showed toward his name, and that ye have ministered to the saints, and do minister. So let me go and read that again. For the Most High is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which ye have showed toward his name, and that ye have ministered to the saints, and do minister. So for your ability and cause not to marry in this captivity, he won't forget that. That's why I told you. Let's go back and see in Matthew, man. That's why I told you, everyone that has forsaken houses or brethren or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my name's sake. That's the key point. You can't be doing it just because you don't want to. You got to be for his name's sake. Shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. So you're going to get it all back plus more in the kingdom. Right? So should you be fruitful and multiply? That depends on the individual. If you do decide to be fruitful and multiply, know what you bringing in and know that know what you are up against. So, should you be fruitful and multiplying, it's nothing that say that you can't, but know that you're in captivity and know that like I said, what you up against. And be prepared. Be prepared to inform and to teach and to raise up your child. Don't just leave them out there for the system to take a hold of, man. Don't just leave them out there and put them in public school, even if they go to private school, put them in private school. You got to be able to spend time with them and show them and teach and show them the right way, man. And also know that you're going to be giving them food that ain't necessarily real food, man, and what kind of side effects that can have on them. And also that if you're going to play in their system, you got to play by their rules. A lot of these schools want kids to be vaccinated. What's your stance on that? Do you believe in vaccines? It tells you that your body is a temple. You shouldn't be putting these vaccines in them, these different chemicals and what have you. It's something when you didn't know better, but now that you know, and now that the word is going abroad, there's no excuse. You can't say you didn't know. So this is up to you. If you're going to be a king, you got to use discernment and better judgment. That's why he said, that's why Paul told you, if you can't abstain, then yeah, he said, go ahead and marry so that you don't burn. But know what you, when you marry, what you bring it into. If you go ahead and be fruitful and multiply. So I think that's about all I had to touch on. And I guess I'm gonna close it out with First Peter, chapter 5, verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. I mean, if you ain't up on what's going on and you just out there just, doing everything all willy-nilly, just having sex with, all these different women, and you're not really taking the time to think about your actions, just know that your adversary, he's waiting on you. And not just you, but the life that you bring into this world as well. So with that being said, I'm going to say peace, shalom.